Hey there, and welcome to the Reclamation Room. I'm Ashana, and I'm so glad you're here. This is a space for women reclaiming themselves after narcissistic abuse. If you've ever felt like you were too much, not enough, or both at the same time, you're in the right place. I created this podcast because I know what it's like to lose yourself in overgiving, overperforming, and still wondering why it never felt like love. I've walked through trauma, toxic relationships, and the long road of self-reclamation, and I'm here to walk with you. In this podcast, we'll explore what it means to come home to yourself after the confusion and chaos of narcissistic abuse. Some episodes will be solo, others will include guest interviews. All of them will be honest, grounded, and deeply compassionate. So, whether you're just realizing what you've lived through, or you've been on this path and you're ready for the next layer of your healing, you are welcome here. This is not about perfection. This is about reclamation. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Reclamation Room. I have an exciting episode for you today. This is something that came up in conversation for me, especially when recording podcasts with other women. You know, we have these backstage discussions per se, and something that comes up a lot of times is this concept of how time passes differently and affects us differently after we've been through painful experiences. And knowing that the Reclamation Room is a safe place to talk about the effects of complex trauma in general, not just narcissistic abuse, not just betrayal trauma, but when we've been through something really rough that has changed the way that we process and changed the way that we view things, I thought that this would be super exciting to talk about today. Well, exciting for me. I don't know if exciting is the word that you guys would put to this, but it's fascinating to me. And so I started doing a little bit of research on this concept, and I actually want to share with you some of the studies and journal articles that I found regarding this situation that we find ourselves in of like, wow, time is passing differently and I can't place why. So some of these academic papers, reviews, journal articles, I'll just give you an example of some of these titles because it gets really sciencey in here. So some of these, the dual role of time perception in trauma-exposed individuals, a conceptual review. Another one is called What is a Sense of Foreshortened Future? A phenomenological study of trauma, trust, and time. Another one was called Slower Time Estimation in Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder. Another one is Traumatic Stress in the Circadian System, Neurobiology, Timing and Treatment of Post-Traumatic Chrono Disruption. And a couple more, Distortions in Time Perception During Collective Trauma, Insights from a National Longitudinal Study During the COVID-19 Pandemic, and How Trauma Affects Our Sense of Time. So some of these are more broad, some of these are more specialized categories here, but clearly you can see this is something that affects a lot of people. I mean, obviously we have peer-reviewed articles and journals and studies looking at this concept of how prolonged abuse specifically messes with how we experience time. So this can make it feel like the past is looping endlessly, like you can't get out of it. This could affect how the present might seem to drag on and cause anxiety, and we feel like we just can't get through the next day, the next moment. And this can also make the future feel like it's completely shrinking away from you, and there's no hope, there's no reason to move on. So, if you have ever been that person who is looking at your calendar feeling completely overwhelmed, feeling stuck, not understanding what the next steps are or how to move forward, hopefully you will find something interesting in this episode. We're going to unpack a little bit of why this happens, and we're going to map it out a little more simply in a way that you can put your hands on and feel and speak and bring to life and remove the power that it has felt that it had over you for so long, hopefully. So I'm going to give you some practical tools to start reclaiming your timeline. So first, I want to unpack what this concept of chrono trauma really is. And I just want a disclaimer here. I could be mispronouncing that. It could be chrono trauma, but I'm thinking chronological order, chrono trauma, the passing of time. So that's what we're calling it here. But I want to talk about what it is and how abuse can sneak up on you and take away your sense of time. It can feel like it steals that from you per se. So picturing where we're at here after we've experienced betrayal, after we've experienced narcissistic manipulation, I want you to think back to a time where, no pun intended here, think back to a time where you felt like your internal clock was jammed. So this could look like your past becoming an echo chamber of sorts, where things that hurt you are played on repeat. They keep pulling you back into regret. They might be pulling you into hypervigilance, where you are extremely aware of what's going on in the moment and perhaps giving it different meaning, a scarier meaning, or it feels like more of a threat. This could have been a time where you think you're in the present moment, but what's actually happening is that you're feeling like it's stretching out endlessly. This could happen especially during a trigger or a moment of anxiety, and this can make 5 minutes of panic feel like hours and hours of time. Or it can cause you to feel squeezed down and like tightened so that safe moments actually feel like they're boring and you're going to climb completely out of your skin. Things can feel like they're going to drag on eternally and it might feel pointless. And one last way that I want to speak about that this comes into manifestation in people, and it did for me, is when you think about the future. And this is the part that really hurts. When you think about the future, it can seem like there's no possibilities there. There's no point in reaching for something better or greater for yourself because abuse or painful experiences have taught you that nothing good lasts. So why should you bother planning? Why should you have hope? So this is something that I've learned in my research is called future foreshortening like foreshadowing. And I've actually seen this in many of my clients, like I said, and in myself, where I didn't even see a point in dreaming bigger and hoping for the future. So I couldn't get in touch with that version of me. Like when someone says, imagine yourself 10 years down the road, what do you want? I couldn't really put myself truly in that because it felt to me like it wasn't going to happen anyway. So I want to talk in this episode about how this is not just something that's in your head. Okay. This is actually backed by real science. People have done studies on this and put it in very big fancy words. One of those being phenomenology. So this is a science I say science, this is a field of study that looks at how we as humans subjectively experience time. So we're not just observing the passing of time, right? Like we are in it. We have emotions that we feel in specific moments. We see and feel things and experience things in a chronological order that we can then go back and tell stories about, and smells can bring up different memories for us. There's so many aspects of this. You may be familiar with the book, The Body Keeps the Score, which explains how PTSD fragments that flow of time. So it literally changes the way that we experience this phenomenology. And then there is another one, chronobiology, which is the study of our body's natural 24-hour rhythms, which shows studies in chronobiology have shown that chronic stress, especially what we're talking about here from abuse or these painful situations, especially that we're trying to heal from, these throw off the what we would call the master clock in the brain. So this spikes hormones that in our body mess with our sleep, mess with our focus, mess with our ability to make good decisions. And so it can feel like this sense of jet lag that is draining your energy and fatiguing you and preventing you from moving forward. So I know a lot of us have experienced that, but in reading these studies and looking this up and digging into it more, I was encouraged to learn that neuroplasticity actually applies here also. So this is cool. Your brain is what we call plastic. It's changeable, it's moldable, it's malleable, it's rewirable. It just takes some targeted habits in order to rewire some of these things. So I shared all of this information for those who, like me, want to say, okay, yes, this makes sense. Other people are experiencing this. I can wrap my brain around why this is happening. I can relax enough to say, okay, what's the next step? But I want there to be actionable steps that come next versus just, okay, yes, this is happening. So we're going to think about this in terms of clearing debris away from a river that has been dammed up. And so we're taking those pieces away one by one, because this does take time. This isn't something that just you do it overnight and boom, it's done. But once that flow starts again, it starts to feel like time is more steady and you have more presence in the moment of time and you can more effectively navigate and organize yourself per se. So this is something that I have noticed improving in myself. And so looking over these studies and putting words to it actually helped me make sense of the process that I have learned to do. And I want to actually share with you something that I share in my 12-week program in helping women learn how to self-regulate and feel peace and confidence after trauma, abuse, and a painful past. But now I know why this works so well. So that's another part of why I shared the science with you in the beginning of the episode. But we're going to map this out. So I want you can either get out a pen and paper or pencil and paper, marker and paper, pick your poison, or just visualize this in your head out in front of you. But we're going to put a horizontal line straight across the page. And in the middle of the line, we're going to put one of those stars, like on those maps, like you are here. Okay. And that's your present. And then on the left side of the line, we're going to put a dot, and that is the past. And then on the right side of the line, we're going to put another dot, and that is the future, obviously. Okay, so simple line. And we're looking at the past here, looking at that dot and thinking of it in terms of healing. That past dot, that can be the echo chamber that I mentioned before, where trauma keeps pulling you back. It's pulling you down. You're replaying betrayals that you've been through, gaslighting moments that hurt you, and that is trapping the energy that you could be using today. So you're kind of stuck. It's these stuck points in your body, right? So let that be what it is. We're looking at the present, and the present in terms of healing from abuse and trauma. The present is like the stretching point or the squeezing point. So we're either being stretched more than we feel like we can handle, or we're being squeezed and we feel trapped and we need to get out. And so this is the point where actual safety may cause you to feel numb. It may cause you to feel restless. It may cause you to feel like you're crawling out of your skin. And these moments can stretch forward and feel endless, and triggers can turn moments into forever, right? Like, especially when you're triggered and angry and you're exhausted and it's the heat of the moment, time gets away from you and you're snapping at someone, or you're in a heap on the floor and unable to pull yourself out of it, which causes fatigue and exhaustion. Okay, let that be what it is. And then we're looking at that last dot on the right, the future. And we're thinking about that in terms of this is that foreshortened horizon. And so the unpredictability of abuse has often caused tomorrow or the future to seem vague or to seem doomed or, not even worth it. And so planning even small things like meeting up with a friend or catching up on laundry or setting up a new routine for yourself to start working out, the motivation isn't quite there to get those things done because it can seem like, what's the point? So we're looking at this line. And when we look at what this means for us in recovery, so we're changing the way that we look at each of those dots. And so the past that we talked about before, that's the echo chamber, that's the dragging you down, holding up all of your energy. We are learning to look at the past as closed chapters of a book, right? Like we've read those chapters, we've been through those chapters. The book is still on the bookshelf. We don't necessarily have to burn all of our books right now. Okay. We could choose to do that later, but that's later. We're looking at the book right now and it's on the shelf. And we can close that book and we can say, okay, there were facts, there were chapters in that book and they happened, and that's a fact. And we can use those facts to ground ourselves to, okay, this happened and this happened. And then we can close the book and put it on the shelf and say, I'm not going to sit and ruminate over this, right? That is what it is. Okay. So in the present, we don't want to gaslight ourselves and say, just get over that closed chapter, right? You don't need to go there again. You don't need to revisit it, like get over it and move on. No, we can revisit it as needed. But what we're learning to do is we're learning to remove the power of the past to keep dragging us back into that same book over and over and over again. So we move forward on our timeline and we're in the present right now. And so this is where we use sensory resets, which will help us normalize the flow of time, re-anchor us into the present, but it's also helping us build resilience and tolerance for the in-between moments where we feel like, okay, I'm not quite sure I've got the hang of this yet. I kind of feel the past pulling me back. We're going to use these anchoring moments in the present using our sensory input to say, okay, I'm here, close the book, I'm in the present. And then in the future, we're going to learn how to start expanding that future that we have foreshortened, right? Our sense of hope is lost. Our sense of chronological order is different than it used to be. And we're looking at the future in terms of like, oh my God, I don't even know if there's any point in that. We're going to expand that a little bit, which expands our hope, expands our ability to look at other possibilities, and we're going to expand it bit by bit using what we call micro steps. And so we're going to rewire the way that we're looking at each of these things. And we're looking at these micro steps not with dread, but with doable actions that we can actually accomplish. And I've done this in work with women, one on one, especially in calls. And like I said, in my 12-week program, it's a guided visualization. There's an audio format of it, there's a PDF format of it that you can read and you visualize yourself. But I've seen this work with women in ways of even just like real life application. Like, I didn't even think that it was worth trying to book that trip for myself so that I could get back to that like traveling version of myself, and then slowly building the resilience and the tolerance over time till that client was saying, hey, you know what? I took that hiking trip, I took that camping trip, and it was awesome. And it helped me see that side of me again. And I had lost complete touch with her. I thought there was no point in doing that anymore. And that opened her up to, oh my gosh, I forgot how much I love nature. Right. I forgot how much I love just going and sitting by the water and spending that time, which changed the way that she was eating, changed the way that she was viewing her conscious breath, her yoga, her movement, getting out and taking daily walks again. So big picture here, it changed everything. But small picture moments, she didn't even think that she could take that one trip, right? So really changing what we're doing here by making these micro steps and changing the way that we look at those, not with dread, but doable actions. So let me see. I had notes here. I put here. So yeah, so she started tweaking her timeline weekly. And so instead of looking at it in terms of like, oh my gosh, there's so many things between this and this, she started looking at it in terms of like, okay, this is a Tuesday and this I can handle. And I've noticed this in myself actually. I used to get really overwhelmed when my to-do list was super long. But being a mom, being a business owner, doing all the things that I do, and having already put down the things that I didn't want to really commit to and didn't want to spend my time on, I would still get overwhelmed by there's so many things on the list this week that I have to do. And I would have to look at it in terms of, okay, this is just a Tuesday or this is a Wednesday. But it's really sitting with yourself in those moments to build the resilience for what's coming. But the kicker here is grounding yourself in the present moment. And for me, I had to kind of trick my brain. You'll remember in the beginning, I told you that my brain, the way that I've done things in the past is even when I was quitting caffeine, like I research, and I understand it as much as I possibly can. And then I take the action that feels best for me, feels most aligned for me. And inevitably, what usually happens is I find that I end up going off the beaten path a little bit and finding what works even better for me than what I had originally thought. So, really anchoring in the present moment and tricking the brain here. I'm going to share with you in a moment a very tactile and like voice activated experience to say, yes, this is where I am. This is how I'm going to be doing it. So, this is flexible. It's able to be tailored to your life. This can be, if you're a night owl and you don't want to start waking up in the morning to start working out, or if you need help dealing with your kids' routines in the afternoon, whatever it is, hopefully this will help you. So, actionable steps here because knowing and doing are two completely different things. So, remember the line that we drew, and this could be on your paper, this could be in your brain, but we're going to do a mini reset here for your brain's clock. I said that so weird. We're going to do a mini reset here for your brain's clock. So, it's going to be very straightforward. I want you to trace the line with your finger. So, start at that dot that we said was the past, and I want you to trace the line all the way to the future dot. Okay. And then do it one more time. Place your finger on the past, bring it forward to the present, trace it forward to the future. Okay. Now, I want you to take a moment to just feel where you are. You felt your finger on the paper. Now, I want you to take your hands and press them on your legs or on the arm of your chair, the desk where you're sitting. Just feel the solid contact. And remember that that is your starting point. So we're starting right here, right now. And I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. And I want you to go back to that line in front of you. And I want you to put your finger on the dot that represents the past. And I want you to pick one neutral fact that happened yesterday. This could be I walked the dog. I had a coffee at 8 a.m. Whatever it is, I want you to put your finger there. And I want you to say what you did out loud. I walked the dog. I had a coffee. You're going to hold it there for a count of 5. And I want you to feel how you're anchoring a moment in the past into the paper or into your imagination. And it's not pulling you under. You're here, you're in control, you're conscious. This is a closed moment that's contained in time, like a book on a shelf. And I want you to notice your breath and let your breath match that steadiness in and out. It's a closed moment in time. Now I want you to take your finger and I want you to place it on the middle dot for the present. I want you to name one sensation that you're feeling right this second. It could be your feet on the floor, your phone in your hand, wind blowing your hair. And I want you to say to yourself, I'm feeling this right now. Name what it is that you're feeling. Touch that center point of your line. Notice your breath. You're here in the moment. Match the steadiness with your breath for a count of 5. And I want you to let the contact with the present moment and your finger on the paper ground you. It's a checkpoint. Time is not slipping. You are right here and you are holding the line steady. Notice your exhale, releasing any tension, any tightness, any resistance. And now we're going to move your finger to the dot on the right end, the future. I want you to choose one small and doable anchor that's happening in the next few days, maybe next week. Something kind to yourself, maybe. Try that new tea I've been wanting to try. Call a friend on Friday. Whatever that is for you, I want you to mark it with your finger here, and I want you to say out loud, try that new tea. Call a friend. I want you to notice your breath, and you're anchoring this spot in your future, grounded, and let your breath match the steadiness of, yes, this is the future. And I want you to feel that line extend just a little. Not like you're rushed, not like it's stressing you or there's pressure, but with a quiet possibility. And you can remove your finger. And I want to just remind you that this is not about filling the entire horizon of your line. You don't have to sit here and map out all the dots that you have ahead of you. I want you to just realize that you can claim this one point in the future as yours, as a plan, as something that's coming and you can handle it. And instead of a forward motion, moving forward into that dot, I want you to sit here now. And again, this could be on paper, this could be in your imagination, but look at that line. Look at the dots for your past, present, and future. And I want you to inhale a sense of presence in this moment. And I want you to exhale out any doubt of what's coming and let the line be what it is. It's not forcing you, it's not pressuring you. And now I want you to trace it one more time, just left to right, slow and deliberate, past, present, future. And then we'll pause here because I want you to take a moment and notice if anything shifted for you. Maybe the past felt a little bit lighter or the future felt a little bit closer. Maybe you just felt what it was like to relax your muscles for a moment and let things be what they are. And that's okay too. It didn't have to be something massive that you noticed. Oh my gosh, I have no more fear of anything ever. No, you are present and you notice something. And that's you starting the reclamation process of taking back control, that this sense of time, warped or not in the past, frantic or not in the past, shameful or fearful or not in the past. You're here in this present moment and you do have a say. You do have choices. And you can redraw this line on your own terms at any given moment. You can stop at any moment and be present and anchor yourself on any of these points. So I want you to take one more full breath. And I just want to say, we did this in maybe 3 minutes, definitely less than 5 minutes, but it doesn't have to take this long. This is something that you can do daily. This is something that you can do in the moment. Just stop, notice where you're at, put your hands on your desk, your chair, your thighs together, wherever they need to be. Feel yourself in that moment. Close your eyes, envision your line, and take those breaths, past, present, or future. And you can layer those with a couple more habits that might help you kind of anchor this in and say, yes, like I'm taking control of my own timeline here. Number one could be just scanning your calendar in the morning or your to-do list, or you could do this visually in your mind when you think about your upcoming day. This can take just 2 minutes. And I want you to add one anchoring event into your day. This could be to take a walk. This could be to stretch, be a few jumping jacks if you need a little bit of movement. But I want you to each morning, if it feels right, just set an anchor point in your day to get back in touch with yourself. And this will cue your body to tap into its own sense of that chronobiology that we were talking about before. So, like your own rhythm, your own internal clock. It will cue you back into the present moment with your body so that you can better focus moving forward. And remembering also that these small habits really add up over time. So this isn't going to be something that you do it today and then tomorrow all your worries and cares are gone. This is really going to be most effective if you commit to, for 30 days, I'm going to put an anchoring point in my day. Even if it takes 2 minutes, I'm going to do it. And you'll notice after 30 days that you start to actually look forward to that moment because it's something that your body is saying, yes, this is a routine. Yes, this is normalcy. This is something that I can look forward to. And it's actually bringing you incrementally closer to being in tune with yourself and your own internal nudges. So, a couple more habits here that you could incorporate. Number two, before bed, this is another of my 12-week healing program, but before bed, just allow yourself to relax all of your muscles. Close your eyes if you're not afraid you're going to fall asleep, and just envision yourself going throughout your day. Everything that you did that day, the people that you talked to, the food that you ate, the feelings that you felt. Allow yourself to take stock of what happened that day and really process it in this moment. And then think to yourself or envision to yourself, what did I learn from this day? What lessons were there for me? And how can I incorporate this moving forward? What kind of day do I want to have tomorrow? Is there anything from today that I want to repeat and take forward with me into tomorrow? Or is there something that I learned that I don't want to do again and that didn't feel authentic? These moments, this touch point at the end of your day, especially right before you fall asleep, helps you really get in touch with your authentic sense of self and who you actually want to show up as in the world, which I think we can forget to do with the way that time, it feels like it's moving forward constantly, what we've been talking about here in this episode. So just taking control back of that and saying, no, I can be present. I do have choices. Because once that hopelessness and that learned helplessness kicks in, it kind of just snowballs from there. And so we don't want to give power to that any more than we have to. We want to say, hey, actually, wait a minute, I do have something that I can do here. And then the last thing that I'll leave you with is just building that sense of the horizon and building your resilience and your tolerance for being able to face that. So you could even do this weekly, and you can pick one goal that is kind of a stretch for you, but you can break it up into 15-minute chunks. So this could be researching a new hobby that I want to try versus I have to enroll in this hobby. I have to figure out when it's going to fit into my schedule. I have to figure out the right person to hire to do it, like the right gym to go to, or where I'm going to take my kids for childcare when I go work out. No, you don't have to do all of those things at once. Pick your goal, write it down, take the time to brain map it out, whether that's thought bubbles for you or a bullet list format, whatever works for you, break it up into 15-minute chunks, because this will actually rewire your brain, to start looking at things in terms of expanded viewpoint here. Okay. We don't have to always be looking at the bigger picture. We can remove that pressure and look at things in smaller terms that are more manageable. So hopefully there was a few tips here that could help you. I wanted to do something new this week rather than just discussing things that I've noticed in my own journey or sharing a story of something that I went through. I thought to myself, gosh, we've talked about this in several podcast interviews lately with other women. How can we share about this in a way that normalizes the experience, but also helps us get out of it a little bit? And I think that sometimes we're just too busy, right? Time being what it is, we have so many things going on. So hopefully these short insights can be helpful for you. Just remember, your time is reclaimable. Okay, it's not something that you have to constantly feel controlled by forever, or like it's out of control completely. So if you're feeling small, feeling stuck, just remember, like, oh my gosh, small steady improvements are key, and we want to be moving forward on your terms here. That's what we're aiming for. So consistency, repetition, don't give up on yourself. You're worth it. I believe you're worth it. Even if you don't believe it yet, keep going, because I assure you, in time, you will start to notice the benefits. Your body will thank you. You'll feel more clear headed and able to manage more things. And you'll look back and say, my gosh, wow, I handled that much better than I would have in the past. So if this resonates, I would love it if you share your wins with me. You can look me up on Instagram. My handle is at Way Home Wellness. That's Way Home Wellness. I'm currently in the middle of a rebrand. And also, if you are struggling with anything like time feeling like it's having control of you, or feeling stuck, not sure how to move forward, your emotions are getting the best of you and you're not showing up as the person that you want to, please do check the links here, because I'm going to share the link to my weekly women's call. It's a community call held every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central. It's by registration only, so it's private, but there will be other women there who likely have experienced something similar. And it's also a great opportunity to get a little free one-on-one coaching or group coaching, because we're all there together and I'm able to give feedback on what you might be going through in that moment. So I really appreciate you being here. I love that you listened. Thank you for joining me here. Remember, you've got this. I believe in you. And when all else fails, take that next breath, take that next step, and remember that you don't have to do it all at once. Okay? The next step sometimes, a lot of times, is just enough. Thanks for spending time in the Reclamation Room. Be sure to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if this supported you, consider sharing it or leaving a review. You're not alone, and your reclamation is sacred.